We've reached a deal with Stellantis to make this Windsor plant and the one in Brampton global leaders on building electric vehicles.
They will also build 2 new research and development centers for electric vehicles and battery technology right here in Ontario.
2 auto plants in Ontario are getting major upgrades in order to produce electric vehicles. Stellantis will invest $3.6 billion with contributions from the feds and province worth about $500 million each. François-Philippe Champagne is the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. He joins us now in studio to talk about this announcement. Minister, pleasure to welcome you back to the studio. Nice to see you.
It's good to be back. I think it's one of the first since the pandemic, so very excited to be back from Windsor and be in your studio here in Ottawa.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the chance to ask you about this announcement and a few other things. First of all, the money announced today, my understanding is, will go towards retooling the plant so that they can produce electric vehicles. Will that, bottom line, result in additional jobs for Canadians? And if so, how many?
So the good thing is that the magic number today is 3. 3 shifts in Brampton and in Windsor, and 3 new EV vehicles mandates which are going to come to Canada. So this is a big win because, as you know, I was saying this is a big vote of confidence in our auto workers, a big vote of confidence in the auto sector and in Canada because, you know, we're in very uncertain time in terms of supply chain, the geopolitics of the world. And I would say we started negotiating with the CEO of Stellantis way back, you know, months ago. And today, when you look back, you say we've basically now have new mandates with all the automakers in Canada. So clearly the world is saying that something is happening in Canada. And what we've done, you may have seen in Bécancour when we're talking with BSF, with GM POSCO, and now with all the mandates we have renewed. I think this is great because we didn't want to miss the train. There was this shift towards the electric vehicle, and Canada now is going to lead in that position.
And I think I understand what you're saying about the industry itself and attracting it and making sure that it stays in Canada. But it's a lot of money that you're investing, a lot of taxpayer money that you're investing. And I'm sort of asking from the perspective of, are there guarantees in it for Canadians? Insofar as, look, there's 8,000 jobs, my understanding is, between the 2 plants already. Does this mean there's going to be additional jobs? Or
over time? But what I'd say, we get a good return. Trust me, when I do these deals, if you look at what we have today.
But I think on behalf of Canadians, you can't just trust the government.
Well, I mean, let me give the numbers. So 529, 3.6 billion, and we're getting hundreds of millions in research and development in Windsor in the new platforms and in the battery testing plant for North America. So if you look at our rate of return, if you just want to look pure financial, we're getting our money within a couple of years. So this, for the taxpayer perspective, is great because you don't want to miss the train. Big decisions are being made right now. And with $520 million, we secured $3.6 billion. That's only the money the company will spend, obviously, to build the plant. Now, if you think we've secured jobs for until 2035, and if you add everything that these plants consume and how it's positioning Canada in the world in the auto sector, I mean, this is a very good deal for Canadians because just the amount we're going to get in research and development is about the same amount of money we're putting in this deal. So what I'm saying is that not only we've secured jobs for future generations, because the challenge we had when we started that is that if you don't move to electric vehicle, you're going to miss the boat. We didn't want to be there. So that's why you've seen this people call me impatient. Well, I wanted to make sure that you know, the auto workers today in our auto sector would survive, not only for the short term, but obviously for the long term.
Are there any guarantees, though, from Stellantis, for example, that those 8,000 Canadians who are currently employed under the current structure of the plants, before they're retooled, before automation increases, will keep their jobs?
Well, jobs will fluctuate over time because it's clear when you're looking.
So there's no guarantee?
Well, there are guarantees with respect to workers and the amount of jobs. What I'm saying is obviously when you shift to electric vehicles, I mean, the unions understand that, we understand that. It's a different way of making vehicles. But what
it takes fewer people.
Well, it takes fewer people. But one thing is that for me, you know, that is true is that you want to do the shift because if you're not going to do the shift, you're not going to be there in the future. Not only we're retooling these plants, they're getting modernized, but if you look, just look at Brampton. Let's step back for a minute. Brampton did not have a mandate beyond 2022. Now we have secured that. Is this the only way to
get them to stay?
Well, I think not only get them to stay, but invest in an EV platform. That's what we wanted to get in Canada because you don't want to manufacture the car today of the current technology, but what you want to make sure is that we got not only 3 shifts in both plants. That is a big win. If you talk to the union, they'll tell you no one expected we would get 3 shifts. No one expected we'd get 3 shifts in Brampton, but only we got 3 shifts, but we got 3 new electric vehicle mandates. So the Made in Canada electric vehicle, now we have the mandates to do that. And that's why I'm very bullish for the sector, because honestly, when you look at what's going on in the world, not only we landed that, but we landed, you've seen recently, the LG Stellantis, where we're going to be making batteries.
Yeah, speaking of that, last time we did an interview, it was on that, and you wouldn't disclose at the time how much the feds were investing, because you didn't want to impact future deals. Now that you have this one, can you tell us how much the feds are investing, your government?
We'll disclose it at the right time. We always give the numbers because this is all public information. We're still negotiating other battery plants. So
am I to read into that there's potential future Stellantis deals?
I'm going in Germany next week. You know me. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to, we're happy with what we have today, but I'm on my way to Germany next week at the G7, and I'll be meeting with Volkswagen, with Mercedes-Benz, with BMW. We want to make sure that...
So you don't want to... Is it that you don't want to disclose how much money you're investing? And again, I'm asking only because it's taxpayer money. It's a lot of money, right? You don't want to say how much because you have other deals on the horizon?
Well, we have other things we're negotiating at the time, but we always make sure that we are transparent. We want to be transparent with Canadians, and we always do that because, to be honest, when people see the return on investments, they'll agree with us that this is the right thing to do.
You can't tell me when. You can't say, like, perhaps in the next year, Canadians
as soon as we can. And I'm happy to come back in the show and walk you through how much we put and how much we get. Okay. Because, when you look at these things, the amount we're talking today, again, so for our viewers to understand, $3.6 billion, that's just construction costs. That does not include the salaries over 20 years, and that does not include what the plant will be consuming over 20 years. So if you add these to this, it's a much bigger investments that they're going to be making in Canada. So if you put our $5 million compared to that, $500 million, you're saying that our return on investment is just a few years. And I would say in terms of investments, plus the R&D. Like I say, the components we want to lead with the R&D. So
I just asked you about the jobs because I think Canadians have seen a number of times the government puts up their money for big investments. And I'm not trying to take away from the impact of the industry and the fact that it's moving in that direction. But you can't really offer Canadians a guarantee that everyone working there will keep their jobs. And hopefully we don't see, for example, thousands of Canadians laid off in the face, even though the government has invested their money.
Listen, that's for sure. And that's why Unifor was with us at the table. We made sure that not only we negotiated that, all the weekend I was talking to the leader of the unions, and both in Brampton and in Windsor and nationally. And that's why I say this is a vote of confidence in them. It's really, you heard me said, it's thanks to the knowledge, the expertise, the excellence of our workers that we can land these deals. It starts with them. It doesn't, the first thing they ask me, Vashi, I know you would think it's money. That's not the first thing that any investors are asking me these days. They're asking me, Minister, do you have enough talent to fuel our growth? And is the ecosystem strong enough for us to come? And money usually comes third, maybe fourth, because you know what? The amount of money we're putting would be comparable to any states in the United States or what Germany would do, our friends of the UK. Money is not a differentiator in any of these investments. You would look and you would say jurisdictions would do exactly the same. What makes the difference? Why did we get it in Brampton and Windsor? Is the workers. Because that's what was the first thing when I talked to the CEO of Stellantis. He said, the folks there have been doing a great job. They need to be rewarded. And the money part, to be honest, it's comparable in about every auto jurisdiction in the world. So that's not the differentiator. That's why we need to invest in skills. That's why I'm so proud of the excellence of our workers and the work we've been doing with the unions.
Before I let you go, Minister, I want to ask you a little bit about the politics of this. I'm sure I know that you're based in Quebec, but there's an election about to kick off here. And there were kind of some raised eyebrows about the fact that the Prime Minister, you and Minister Fedeli and the Premier were all together just 2 days before the campaign kicks off. I just want to read you Liberal strategist David Hurley. This is what he said about it on Twitter. What is Trudeau doing? This is happening during an election. Ford has unveiled his buses, for God's sakes. Del Duca should try to get Trudeau defined as a third party to at least limit his spending. Do you see how this could be interpreted as kind of a level of support for the progressive Conservatives as you enter into an election?
Trust me, this isn't about politics. This is about the workers. Maybe I come from a family with Prudence whiskey when you talk business, but when you have a $3.6 billion investment, talking to the unions and talking to the management of the company, when you can lock it, you lock it. You don't wait. You don't consider
the announcement couldn't have happened at a different time. Just to clarify,
we locked it over the weekend. Okay. I could show you if you want. I'll send you the text message that I've exchanged with the CEO of the company. No, but my point is that you can take chance. This is a world which we've seen. Look at the news around the world. There could be something happening. They could decide to say, you know what, share price go down. We don't like this. We don't like that. We're going to pull. Those are publicly listed companies. The only moment where we're sure they're going to make the deal is when they announce it. because they have public, they have to make public disclosure. So honestly, when I think about the thousands of workers, the families that are impacted, and the community in Windsor and Brampton, we cannot take chance with that. And talking to the unions, they said, Minister, the moment we can get, we go, regardless of municipal politics, provincial politics, and even federal politics in that. This is about, we are competing every single day. Every one of these deals, Vashi, we have been competing with another jurisdiction. So when management on the other side, which is putting far more money than we're putting, if you look at the percentage just on this one, we're putting 14%. I mean, the lion's share of the money is coming from the company. You don't want them to pull at any time. So the moment you can lock it, you sign, you announce, so that we can provide certainty to the families who need these jobs for the future.
Okay, Minister, I'm out of time. I'll leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thanks
I
for welcoming
appreciate it.
me.
François-Philippe Champagne is the Minister of Industry, among innovation and other things as well. Thank you, Minister.